Archaeologists have discovered a mysterious bronze artifact in one of the most remote caves on our planet. And at the moment, not a single scientist on the planet can explain how it got there. A student has discovered a giant city in the jungle, and researchers are trying to figure out if there is life there. Jewelry in an unusual place, and why does a Chinese bride need to dig a hole today? Watch this video to learn about these discoveries and more. Hi friend, you are on the KirTop channel. Trilingual cuneiform. Here is the inscription of Xerxes I, one of the great Persian kings who reigned in the 5th century BC. The inscription is carved into a smooth section of rock 20 meters above the ground, making it difficult to access and giving it a special grandeur. It is located near Lake Van in modern-day Turkey and is part of the ancient fortress of Van. The inscription is unique in that it is written in 3 languages: Old Persian, Elamite, and Akkadian, which was typical for Persian kings who sought to demonstrate their power over many nations. Xerxes I, famous for his campaigns against the Greeks and mentioned in Greek history, used such inscriptions to assert his power and grandeur. Each symbol here was carved with great precision, and cuneiform was used to convey an official message. The height and complexity of the inscription also indicates the power of the Persian king and was made to be visible to everyone who passed by. 120 pieces of jewelry in the buttocks. The stricter the customs checks become, the more sophisticated the smugglers act. Recently, a man was detained at El Prat Airport in Catalonia who was trying to smuggle a whole collection of jewelry. Having hidden 121 pieces of jewelry in one of the most unexpected places between his buttocks, he hoped to fly to Algeria without hindrance. Among the hidden items were earrings, bracelets, rings, medals, and crosses. A full assortment for a jewelry store. The border guards were suspicious of the man's nervous behavior and one-way ticket. He was taken to a separate room for additional inspection, where an X-ray scan revealed a large amount of metal in his lower part. When the contents were removed, even experienced customs officers were shocked. 8 bracelets, 23 chains, 17 medals, 7 crosses, 19 rings, 15 earrings, and 32 fragments of gold jewelry. The attempt to avoid customs declaration in this way failed. The man was detained. The gold was confiscated. Now the Spanish police are investigating the origin of the jewelry and the possible connections of the smuggler with a criminal group. Rock crystal reliquary. This reliquary, created in France between 1175 and 1200, is a work of art and religious craftsmanship. It is made of gold and silver and decorated with rock crystal, which adds transparency and lightness. The relics of saints or other valuable relics of great importance to believers could be kept inside. Such reliquaries often became objects of worship. They were exhibited in churches and monasteries where they attracted pilgrims from all over. The design of the reliquary itself is especially interesting. It is made in the form of a miniature building with decorative arches, columns, and small figures of saints, which symbolize the idea of a spiritual temple. The transparent cylinder of rock crystal allowed believers to see the contents, which strengthened their faith in the sanctity of the stored relics. A find in a hard-to-reach cave. This bronze dagger with a bone handle is a Bronze Age artifact found in Malta in a nearly inaccessible cave beneath the Dingley Cliff. It dates back to around 2000 BC and belongs to the Borg in Nadur phase, when Malta had an advanced Bronze Age culture. However, it is still unknown why the ancient inhabitants chose this remote cave to deposit their artifacts. Perhaps the site had special significance or ritual value. The dagger's handle is decorated with circular patterns, which is both eye-catching and questionable. This motif is reminiscent of some elements of Mycenaean Greek art, which may indicate cultural influence or trade links. Interestingly, Mycenaean pottery shards were also found in the Bronze Age village where the dagger was discovered. Why was the dagger left in this cave? Was it part of a ritual or a symbol of special status? We can only guess, but every detail, from the green patina on the blade to the mysterious circles on the handle, makes us think about the life and worldview of the ancient Maltese and possible connections with the Mycenaean Greeks. 2,000 kilometers to Antarctica. An international team of archaeologists and paleoecologists has confirmed the outstanding skills of Polynesian navigators who were able to reach the southern latitudes of the Pacific Ocean, although they never made it to Antarctica. Research on Enderby Island, located 500 kilometers south of Stewart Island, has shown that the Polynesians briefly inhabited this remote territory. The remains of cultural layers and garbage heaps confirming their presence were found on the island. With the help of radiocarbon analysis, it was possible to accurately date the settlements, around 1250 to 1320 AD, which coincides with the known dates of the colonization of eastern Polynesia. Professor Atul Anderson and Janet Wilmshurst, who led the research, noted that Enderby was the southernmost place of residence of the ancient Polynesians. Further voyages south were virtually impossible due to the cold ocean waters, lack of resources to repair boats, and the risk of hypothermia. These findings highlight that the Polynesians, although outstanding navigators, still had limits to their expeditions. Mysterious tablets. This golden tablet is one of many unique finds made by Serbian archaeologists in the ancient city of Viminacium, located in what is now Serbia. Viminacium was an important Roman city and military camp that flourished in the 1st to 4th centuries AD. However, discovered artifacts such as these tablets indicate that there were much older and more mysterious customs here. The tablets are engraved with strange symbols that do not resemble the usual Latin or Greek letters, and their meaning remains a mystery to researchers. These signs could be part of an unknown language, a code, or magical symbols that were used in religious rituals. Since the tablets are made of precious metals such as gold and silver, it can be assumed that they had a special meaning for those who created them. Perhaps they were amulets or charms that protected the owner or brought good luck. Despite all the efforts of archaeologists, it has not yet been possible to decipher the mysterious symbols, and they remain one of the greatest mysteries of Viminacium. Mantis helmet. Before you is a samurai helmet from the Edo period made in the 17th century in Japan. This helmet, unique and spectacular, is decorated with a figure of a praying mantis, an insect that symbolized fortitude, speed, and strength. In Japanese culture, the praying mantis is considered a symbol of vigilance and the ability to wait for the right moment to attack. These qualities were highly valued in the samurai tradition, so the image of a praying mantis on a helmet indicates the ideal features of a warrior. Helmets of this era were often decorated with complex and sometimes extravagant elements that emphasized the individuality and social status of the warrior. This helmet was not just protection, but also a means of self-expression that instilled fear in enemies. Made with high precision and decorated with gold elements, it reflects not only the strength but also the aesthetic values of the samurai of the Edo period. They propped up the door with a valuable artifact. Imagine a unique work of art created by a master for many years served as an ordinary door prop in a barn. In 1930, the Council of Invergordon, Scotland, bought a marble bust of Sir John Gordon for only £5 sterling, an insignificant amount at that time. At that time, no one guessed that almost a century later the bust would be valued at £2.5 million, and the proceeds from its sale would be able to bring up to £125,000 into the community budget annually. This sculpture was created in 1728 by the French sculptor Edmé Bouchardon, known for his works for the gardens of the Palace of Versailles and the Fountain of the Four Seasons in Paris. His works have always been highly valued, and the bust, sculpted in Rome, has special historical and cultural value. However, it was lost due to a mix-up in local authority records, and for many years was used as a door stand in a barn in Ballantor, an industrial area near Invergordon. When it resurfaced, Sotheby's experts valued it at £2.5 million. Milk tooth. Archaeologists from Novosibirsk made an important discovery at the Obashir site in the foothills of the Pamir Alay in Kyrgyzstan. They found about 5,000 ancient artifacts, including stone tools, jewelry, and a modern human tooth. Canadian anthropologist Bence Viola from the University of Toronto confirmed that this tooth belongs to Homo sapiens. Archaeologists compared the finds with earlier complexes in Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan studied back in Soviet times. These complexes, located in the Tian Shan and Pamir Mountains, showed striking similarities in the types and methods of processing stone tools. Before this find, it was believed that humans did not live in Central Asia from 20 to 10,000 years ago due to difficult climatic conditions. The found Homo sapiens tooth, dating back to the Mesolithic, was the first find of its kind in the region. A major discovery in Egypt. Archaeologists have discovered an ancient tomb containing 11 sealed burials near Luxor, Egypt in the South Asasif necropolis. The tomb dates back to the Middle Kingdom and likely served as a family burial chamber for several generations during the 12th and early 13th dynasties. The discovery was made possible by a joint expedition of Egyptian and American scientists. It is the first Middle Kingdom burial to be found at South Asasif, expanding our understanding of the necropolis and its connections with the Theban necropolis. Ancient floods destroyed many of the wooden coffins and linen wrappings, but jewelry survived, including amulets and necklaces made of amethyst, agate, and faience. One of the unique items was a fertility figurine made of bluish-green faience, decorated with designs and notches for attaching clay bead hair. A square sacrificial plate with images of symbolic offerings such as a bull's head, bread, and meat, possibly used in rituals, was also found. The remains of 5 women, 2 men, and 3 children were laid in wooden coffins facing north to south. The women's graves had preserved their jewelry, while the children and one of the men were buried without it. Another man was found wearing a necklace of 40 faience beads and an amulet in the form of a hippopotamus's head. This find is especially important in the context of the revival of tourist interest in Egypt, where historical treasures are once again attracting attention. Ancient city in an oasis. Archaeologists have discovered the ruins of an ancient city over 4,000 years old in the Khaybar Oasis in northwestern Saudi Arabia. The city, called Al-Nata, was founded around 2400 BC and consisted of about 50 houses, designed to accommodate about 500 people. The city was surrounded by a powerful wall 14.5 kilometers long, which probably protected its inhabitants from raids and harsh climate. Interestingly, Al-Nata was preserved thanks to a basalt layer that protected the ruins from destruction. The discovery was made possible by observations from above. The structure of the city walls and buildings hidden underground was visible from the air. Al-Nata became an important evidence of the transition of the region's inhabitants from a nomadic lifestyle to a settled one. Previously, scientists believed that at that time this territory was only a desert, unsuitable for life. However, finds in the necropolis, including metal axes, daggers, and agate items, indicate a high level of development of crafts and technologies. Perfume bottle. This small bottle of perfume is a true artifact from the past, which lay on the ocean floor for more than 160 years. It was found on board the Mary Celestia, a ship that sank off the coast of Bermuda. Mary Celestia is a legendary ship. It served as a blockade runner during the American Civil War and carried cargo that was illegally delivered to southern ports. In 1864, the ship sank under unclear circumstances, and since then it has rested on the sea floor, hiding its secrets. On one of the finds, you can read the inscription Piessa and Lubin, London. This is the name of a famous perfume company of the 19th century, which was famous for its exquisite aromas. This bottle is surprisingly well preserved. The glass was not damaged, and the contents still remind us of long-gone times. Even after more than a century and a half, the perfume has retained its aroma, which became a real sensation for archaeologists and perfumers. This discovery gives us a rare chance to smell the scents of that era and touch history through aroma. A house with erotic frescos. Archaeologists continue to amaze us with their findings in Pompeii. They recently discovered a house containing ancient frescoes that are about 2,000 years old. These images, striking in their detail and vivid colors, tell the myths of antiquity and have remained almost undamaged over the centuries. One of the frescoes depicts a satyr, the deity of the forest, on a bed with a nymph, a scene reminiscent of myths where sensual and erotic motifs were the order of the day. Another fresco depicts the legendary story of Phaedra and Hippolytus. Phaedra, in love with her stepson, tried to seduce him, but when she was rejected, she accused him of violence. Hippolytus was unjustly punished, and Poseidon sent a wave on him to take revenge. There is another scene, Venus and her lover Adonis. Venus, captivated by his beauty, came down from the sky for him, but Adonis died while hunting. Then Pluto decided to let him go from the kingdom of the dead for 6 months to appease Venus. This became a symbol of the seasonal renewal of nature. The frescoes were probably created shortly before the eruption of Vesuvius, which explains their excellent condition. At that time, eroticism in art was considered natural, especially when it came to gods and heroes. Unusual artifact. The photo shows a carved model of an eye made from ivory and horn between 1800 and 1900. This object may seem mysterious at first glance, but its purpose is related to medicine and education. In the 19th century, anatomical models made from natural materials were popular among doctors and teachers, who used them to study and explain the complex structures of the human body. Such models allowed students and doctors to examine the structure of the eye and its functions in detail without resorting to real organs. Ivory and horn were used because of their durability and smooth surface, which helped craftsmen create accurate and realistic details. In addition, such objects were considered a status symbol and were used to demonstrate knowledge and experience in anatomy. In the 19th century, medicine was actively developing, and such models played an important role in education. Ancient calendar. This is a mysterious artifact from the ancient Manajra temple in Malta, which is over 6,000 years old. Located in the Krendi area, this temple is one of the oldest religious buildings in the world. On a megalithic stone found here, we can see complex patterns that are believed to have been used to track the equinoxes. How did people of that era, without modern tools, manage to track the movement of the sun and mark key moments of the year? This question remains a mystery to archaeologists and historians. The Manajra Temple is under the protection of UNESCO and is one of the few archaeological sites in Malta that is protected by a special tent. At first, this may seem unnecessary, as the white tent disrupts the visual integrity of the site. However, upon closer inspection, it becomes clear that this protection is necessary. Without it, the detailed carvings would gradually deteriorate under the influence of wind and rain. Persian windmills. These unique windmills are located in the city of Nashtafan in eastern Iran and are ancient structures that are almost 1,000 years old. They were built around the year 1000 and are among the earliest examples of wind power in the world. These mills differ from the European models we are used to in their design. They have a vertical axis, which is ideal for the local climate. The strong winds that blow in this region rotate wooden blades connected to a vertical shaft, which drives a mechanism for grinding grain. What is especially impressive is that these mills are still in working order today. They are made of natural materials such as wood, clay, and reeds, which not only highlight the skill of ancient Persian builders, but also ensure the durability of the structure over the centuries. These mills not only fulfilled their practical function, but also became a symbol of the sustainability and ingenuity of ancient engineers. Today, they are an important cultural heritage, reminding us of how ancient civilizations were able to harness natural forces with minimal impact on the environment. The Nashtafan mills are living testament to the technical genius of the ancient Persians, still working after a millennium. Golden coffee pot. It would seem that this is an ordinary coffee pot, but its decoration makes us think. This strange object was given to the mayor of Pembina, North Dakota around 1900. The surface of the coffee pot is covered with various objects, from shotgun shells and dice to pocket watches, seashells, and military buttons. All this is collected together and covered with a thick layer of gold paint, which gives the object an eccentric and mysterious look. Who could have created such an unusual object and why? There is no answer, and perhaps it will never be known. This coffee pot may be a unique work of art or an attempt to create a memorable object filled with various symbols and stories. It feels the spirit of the times and the eccentricity of the creator who decided to immortalize everything that was at hand on one surface. Buddha in Nirvana. Underground at the site of the ruins of a 7th century Buddhist monastery and temple in Ajna Tepe, archaeologists have discovered fragments of frescoes, stupas, and reliefs depicting Buddha, bodhisattvas, and other deities. Unfortunately, many of them were disfigured and partially destroyed in ancient times. One of the most famous finds was a 13-meter statue of Buddha in Nirvana. It was made of paksa blocks, compressed clay used in ancient times to create large sculptures. The statue was found in a ruined state, so it was literally assembled piece by piece. After excavations, the statue was divided into 72 parts and transported to the Museum of Antiquities of Tajikistan for restoration. Today, the original Buddha in Nirvana can be seen there, and its copy is exhibited in the National Museum of Tajikistan. These discoveries not only open important pages in the history of Buddhism in Central Asia, but also highlight the importance of Ajna Tepe as the center of spiritual culture of the ancient region. Ancient night bird totem. A unique artifact has been found on Pontoon Island in the St. Johns River in Florida. An ancient owl carving, the only one of its kind east of the Mississippi. The 10-foot-tall sculpture, believed to be between 700 and 800 years old, was carved from a single piece of pine and is believed to have once guarded the island's shore. Victor Ropke stumbled upon the totem while crossing the river in 1955. Today, a replica of the owl stands in the same spot on Pontoon Island, which has become a state park. The original is housed at the Fort Carolina National Museum in Jacksonville, and the fiberglass replica is a reminder of the island's ancient heritage. In addition to the owl totem, similar images of an otter and a pelican have been found here, indicating the rich spiritual and cultural life of the indigenous people. The artifact was initially attributed to the Timucua people, but there is another hypothesis, that it was created by the little-known Mayaka tribe, who spoke a different language. The function of the totem is not exactly known, but there are assumptions. Some consider it a symbol of the clan, others a religious object or a boundary mark. The details of the carving are striking. 2 eyes, human and owl, 5 claws instead of the usual 4. Perhaps the owl served as an object for shamanic rituals, because in the myths of Native Americans it is often associated with the spirit of the night and the protector of shamans. Tutankhamun sandals. This exquisite pair of sandals were found in the famous tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun and are now part of an Egyptian collection. These sandals are not just shoes, but a true work of art and a symbolic detail reflecting the worldview of the ancient Egyptians. They are made of wood and covered with intricate inlays made of bark, green leather, and gold foil. The images on the sandals show Egypt's enemies, the Nubians and Asians, bound together, symbolizing the pharaoh's triumph over his enemies. The sandals may have been used as part of a ceremonial wardrobe and had a special meaning. Imagine the pharaoh wearing such shoes as if trampling on his enemies, demonstrating his power and protection of Egypt. The inlay and detailing of the work is amazingly skillful, testifying to the high level of craftsmanship of the ancient Egyptian masters. For the pharaoh, such objects emphasized his status, his divine right to the throne, and his role as a protector of the nation. Want to get married? Dig! In China, especially in the eastern provinces, there is a unique tradition of wedding wine called nuer hong or huadiao. This is not just a drink, it is a symbol that binds family, customs, and long expectations. Huadiao translates as wine with flower carvings due to the tradition of pouring it into beautiful painted bottles decorated with patterns and ribbons. The second name, nuer hong or daughter's red, is due to the fact that the wine is intended for the bride dressed in a traditional red outfit. This drink is put in immediately after the birth of a girl and aged for 18 years, until her wedding. Thus, the parents seem to hint that there is no need to rush to marry off their daughter. It is better to wait until she grows up. The wine is prepared using the traditional technology of yellow wine. The grains are steamed. A leaven known as juk is added and left to ferment. Huadiao is usually amber or brown in color with an alcohol content of about 16%. In the past, this tradition began as early as the beginning of our era. Wine was poured into jugs, tightly sealed and buried in winter along the edges of a pond, which was flooded in the spring so that the wine could not be taken. When the wedding was approaching, the family went to the pond with shovels to dig up the treasured jugs. The taste of this aged wine was rich and deep. Today, jugs are no longer buried. Wine is stored in cellars or bought in beautiful bottles made by craftsmen. At a wedding, nuer hong is traditionally served to the bride's father, father-in-law, and groom, as a symbol of the connection between the two families. Now, nuer hong is more associated with joy and not with the sadness of farewell as it was before when the bride left her home forever. Student discovers entire city. Mexican archaeologists have accidentally discovered an ancient Mayan city hidden in the jungles of Campeche. Tulane University research student Luke Old Thomas discovered the city called Valeriana while looking through LiDAR data. This method maps objects beneath vegetation, and Old Thomas was able to see what had previously eluded other experts. The city of Valeriana, with an area of about 16.6 square kilometers, is impressive in its structure. Pyramids, sports fields, amphitheaters, and roads connecting neighborhoods have been found here. Archaeologists believe that Valeriana was likely home to 30,000 to 50,000 people at its peak from 750 to 850 AD. The city is second in density only to the famous Calakmul. the urban layout reveals a complex structure. Two large centers with temple pyramids connected by a network of roads and residential areas, as well as residences and ceremonial sites. Even traces of water tanks have been found, indicating a thoughtful use of natural resources. This discovery confirms that tropical forests were not places where civilizations go to die, but could support rich and complex cultures. Professor Marcello Canuto notes that the use of LiDAR technology in the last 10 years has accelerated the discovery of new Mayan cities that were previously unknown. Ancient wooden artifact. Archaeologists in Britain have discovered one of the oldest and best preserved wooden tools. This ancient wooden spade-shaped tool, found in the wetlands near Poole Harbor, dates back to the Middle Bronze Age and is approximately 3,500 years old. Due to its submersion in water, the wood has been preserved in an amazing state. Researchers have determined that the spade was carved from oak and would have required many hours of painstaking work, highlighting its importance to its prehistoric owner. Radiocarbon dating has shown that it is around 3,500 years old, making it a unique find for Britain. The tool may have been used for tilling the land, cutting peat, or even fishing, the main occupations of local residents. Scientists believe that during this period, people led a semi-seasonal lifestyle on the wetlands, using the area's resources during the warm season and leaving it in the winter when the areas were flooded. The discovery site was presumably used for drying peat or storing supplies. Tornado of 1764. On June 29, 1764, in the German town of Waldeck, there was a day of repentance and prayer, Buße-und-Bettag, a traditional holiday in Saxony. Almost all the residents gathered in the church, reflecting on faith and asking for forgiveness for sins. At this time, a powerful tornado hit the city, which swept through the region, demolishing houses, breaking trees, and leaving behind devastation. Fortunately, thanks to the stone walls of the church, most of the residents were saved. Only one person died. If the tornado had happened on an ordinary day, the number of victims could have been much higher. At that time, there were no devices for predicting weather anomalies, and people were defenseless against such a phenomenon as a tornado. Knowledge of such natural disasters was scant, and scientists could only rely on eyewitness accounts and damage assessments. But the German scientist and naturalist Gottlob Burkhard Gensmer did a great job of studying the destruction. 6 months after the tragedy, he published an extended report on the event, which went down in the history of science as one of the first such studies. Gensmer found that the tornado reached the F5 level on the modern Fujita scale, or T11 on the Toro scale, one of the highest strength categories. The width of the tornado reached 900 meters, and the wind speed could exceed 480 kilometers per h. The tornado swept through the forests, uprooting mighty oaks, threw huge stones 35 meters into the air, and brought down buildings like houses of cards. In its path, the Lichtenberg forest was destroyed, mansions and farms. Many animals died and people were injured. Gensmer, known for his scientific approach, carefully recorded all the details of the disaster. He measured tree trunks, checked the thickness of blown-off roofs, interviewed witnesses, and even found out the weather conditions on the day of the tragedy. His research was the result of careful, almost detective-like analysis and was published in a 56-page report containing 77 paragraphs. This document lay in an archive for almost 250 years until it was found in the Schwerin Library, which was a real find for historians. Gensmer's report is different from other descriptions of natural disasters of that time. There is no hint of mysticism or supernatural explanations, only facts. Gensmer used an empirical approach, drawing conclusions based on objective data, which made his research a significant contribution to the science of that time. I hope you enjoyed the video and it deserves your like. Thank you for watching to the end. Bye everyone.